When the medical board chairman asked if I had any final evidence, I placed the USB drive on the table. My wife's face went completely white. She knew every file, every falsified record, every affair. It was all there. My name is Nathan Pierce. I'm a financial analyst, father to a 13-year-old daughter named Riley, and until 6 months ago, husband to Dr. Vanessa Pierce, one of the most respected cardiologists at Mercy General Hospital. Notice I said until 6 months ago. This is the story of how a simple manila envelope delivered by my daughter destroyed everything my wife built on lies, and how I made sure she paid for every single one. It was a Tuesday in April. Normal day. I picked Riley up from soccer practice at 5:30. She was quieter than usual during the drive home, playing with the straps of her backpack instead of talking about practice like she normally did. About halfway home, she said, "Dad, Mrs. Chen gave me something for you." Mrs. Chen was Patricia Chen, a nurse at Mercy General. Her daughter Mia was Riley's best friend and teammate. I'd met Patricia maybe a dozen times at soccer games and school events. Nice woman, professional, always kept to herself. "Oh yeah, what is it?" I asked, keeping my eyes on the road. Riley reached into her backpack and pulled out a manila envelope. It was sealed with tape and my name was written on the front in neat handwriting. Nothing else. No return address, no indication of what was inside. "She said to give this to you privately," Riley said. "She seemed really serious about it, Dad, like her hands were shaking when she gave it to me." That got my attention. I took the envelope at a red light, felt the weight of it. Something substantial was inside. Papers, maybe photographs. "Did she say anything else?" I asked. "Just that you'd understand when you read it and that she was sorry." Sorry. That word hung in the air the rest of the drive home. Vanessa was working a double shift that night, or so she said. These days I was learning to question everything. We'd been married 15 years and the last 3 had been rough. She was distant, always at the hospital, always too tired to talk. I'd chalked it up to her demanding career. Cardiology isn't a 9-to-5 job, but something about Patricia Chen handing my daughter an envelope with an apology attached made my instincts kick in. I made Riley dinner, helped her with her homework, and waited until she was in bed before I opened the envelope. I poured myself a whiskey. I'm not normally a drinker, but something told me I'd need it, and sat down at my home office desk. Inside were approximately 40 pages of photocopied documents, medical records, patient files, incident reports, and photographs. Lots of photographs. The first page was a handwritten note from Patricia. "Nathan, I've debated doing this for 8 months. I've lost sleep over it. But I have a daughter too, and if someone knew what I'm about to show you about my husband, I'd want them to tell me. Your wife is not who you think she is. I'm risking my career giving you this, but my conscience won't let me stay silent anymore. I'm sorry." Patricia, my hands started shaking as I read the next document. It was a patient file from Mercy General. The patient's name was redacted, but the attending physician was listed as Dr. Vanessa Pierce. The date was from 7 months ago. The notes detailed a cardiac event, emergency admission, treatment protocol, standard stuff. Except at the bottom, there was a handwritten notation that didn't match the printed timestamp. Someone had altered the admission time by 2 hours. I'm a financial analyst. I spend my days looking for discrepancies, finding patterns in numbers that don't add up. And this didn't add up. The next document was an internal incident report filed by Patricia Chen herself. In it, she reported that Dr. Pierce had altered patient records to cover up a delayed response to a cardiac emergency. The patient had come in at 2 p.m. Vanessa hadn't seen them until 4 p.m. In those 2 hours, the patient had suffered additional heart damage that could have been prevented. But the official record showed Vanessa responding immediately. The incident report had been filed with the hospital administration. It was marked under review and dated 6 months ago. No action had been taken. I flipped through more pages, more patients, more altered records. More incidents of Vanessa falsifying timestamps, diagnosis codes, treatment protocols. In one case, she'd prescribed medication that directly contradicted a patient's known allergies, and then changed the allergy information in the records after the patient had a severe reaction. I was sweating now. My wife wasn't just cutting corners. She was committing malpractice. Systematic, repeated malpractice, and the hospital was covering it up, but that wasn't the worst part. The photographs started on page 23. They were taken in a hospital parking garage. Vanessa, unmistakable in her white coat and hospital badge, kissing a man I didn't recognize. The timestamps on the photos showed dates and times over the past 4 months. Different angles, different days, always the same man, more photos. Vanessa and the same man entering a hotel together, leaving separately an hour later. Vanessa and this man in what looked like a restaurant private room, their hands intertwined across the table. The final photograph made my blood run cold. It was taken in what appeared to be a hospital room. Vanessa was there in her coat. The man was there too, lying in a hospital bed with monitoring equipment attached to him. And they were kissing. The patient identification bracelet on his wrist was visible in the corner of the photo. I sat back in my chair, the whiskey forgotten. My wife was having an affair with a patient, while he was admitted under her care, and she was falsifying medical records to cover up the time. She spent with him instead of treating other patients. This wasn't just infidelity. This was criminal. This was the kind of thing that destroyed careers, ended medical licenses, potentially led to lawsuits and jail time. I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't immediately confront Vanessa or smash things or have any kind of emotional breakdown. Instead, I did what I do best. I started analyzing the data. I spread every document across my desk. I created a timeline. I cross-referenced dates on the altered medical records with the dates of the affair photographs. I found the pattern. Every falsified timestamp corresponded with a period when Vanessa was meeting this man. She was stealing time from her patients to spend with her lover, then covering it up by changing the records. The man's name was Justin Holloway. Patricia had included a separate sheet with his information. 42 years old, real estate developer. Admitted to Mercy General 9 months ago for cardiac arrhythmia. Vanessa had been his attending physician, and apparently they'd started sleeping together shortly after his admission. He'd been discharged months ago, but the affair continued. The most recent photo was dated just 5 days ago. I spent 3 hours that night reading every page, taking my own photos of the documents with my phone, organizing everything into a digital file structure. I'm methodical by nature, and I knew I needed to be absolutely meticulous about this. If I was going to destroy my wife's career, and I needed to do it correctly. Around 2 a.m., I heard the garage door open. Vanessa was home from her double shift. I calmly collected all the documents, put them back in the envelope, and locked them in my office safe. I cleared my desk, shut down my computer, and was reading a book in bed when she walked into our bedroom. She looked tired. Her hair was slightly messed up, her makeup smudged. She smelled like hotel soap, not hospital antiseptic. "Hey," she said, kicking off her shoes. "How was your day?" "Fine," I said, not looking up from my book. "Riley had soccer practice. She played well." "Good, that's good." She disappeared into the bathroom. I listened to her shower, listened to her get ready for bed, listened to her slip under the covers beside me. She was asleep within minutes, breathing deeply, without a care in the world. I lay awake until dawn, planning my next move. I needed more than Patricia's documents. I needed my own evidence, my own investigation. Because if I was going to the medical board, and I needed to be absolutely bulletproof. Vanessa had money, connections, and 15 years of reputation at Mercy General. She'd fight back with everything she had, so I had to be smarter. The next morning, I called in sick to work. First sick day I'd taken in 3 years. After Vanessa left for the hospital and Riley left for school, I started making calls. First call, a private investigator named Derek Moss. I'd used him once before on a fraud case at my firm. He was expensive, discreet, and thorough. "I need full surveillance on my wife," I told him. "Everywhere she goes, everyone she meets, photo, documentation, video if possible, and I need background on a man named Justin Holloway." "How long?" Derek asked. 2 weeks minimum, maybe more. "This is going to run you about $15,000. Do it." I had the money. I'd inherited a decent amount from my father 2 years ago, kept it in a separate account. Vanessa didn't know the full extent of it. I'd planned to use it for Riley's college fund. Now I was using it to end my marriage and my wife's career. Fair trade. Second call, a divorce attorney named Claire Mitchum. Best in the city, specialized in high-asset divorces with complicated financial situations. "I need to understand my options," I told her. "My wife is a physician. I have evidence of infidelity and likely criminal malpractice. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I want full custody. I want to protect my assets, and I want to make sure my wife doesn't walk away from this unscathed." Claire was quiet for a moment. "That's quite a list. Can you do it? Come to my office tomorrow. Bring everything you have." Third call, the state medical board. I didn't file a complaint yet. Too early. I needed more evidence. But I asked about the process, the requirements, the timeline. The woman I spoke with was professional and thorough. She explained that if I had evidence of malpractice and medical record falsification, I could file a formal complaint. The board would investigate. If they found merit, they'd hold a hearing. Physicians could lose their licenses. How long does the process take? I asked. Depends on the complexity. 6 months to a year, usually. And if the hospital is involved in covering it up, then you might want to consider contacting our Fraud Investigation Division and possibly the State Attorney General's office. Perfect. I spent the rest of that day creating a detailed file of everything I knew. I scanned every document Patricia had given me. I created spreadsheets correlating dates, times, incidents. I built a timeline of Vanessa's affair alongside the medical record falsifications. I researched medical board procedures, hospital liability laws, criminal statutes related to healthcare fraud. By the time Riley came home from school, I had a battle plan. Give Derek 2 weeks to gather current evidence. Then I'd meet with Claire to file for divorce and start custody proceedings. Simultaneously, I'd file complaints with the medical board, hospital administration, and if the evidence supported it, law enforcement. I'd dismantle Vanessa's life piece by piece, methodically and legally. She'd lose her medical license, her marriage, her reputation, and possibly her freedom. And through it all, I'd maintain complete control. That night at dinner, Vanessa seemed distracted. She pushed her food around her plate, checking her phone every few minutes. Everything okay at work? I asked casually. Fine, just busy. She didn't look up. Riley, bless her, tried to engage her mother in conversation about an upcoming school project. Vanessa barely responded. After dinner, she disappeared into our bedroom to catch up on paperwork. I helped Riley with her homework, watched her head to bed, then went to my office. I had an email from Derek. He'd already started surveillance. Attached were photos from that afternoon of Vanessa leaving the hospital at 3 p.m., hours before her shift ended, and meeting Justin Holloway at a coffee shop downtown. They sat close together, his hand on her knee under the table. The next 2 weeks followed a pattern. Vanessa would claim late shifts or emergency calls, and Derek would document her actually meeting Justin. Sometimes coffee shops, sometimes hotels. Once an apartment I discovered Justin owned downtown. Derek even managed to get video of them entering the apartment together, staying for 2 hours, leaving separately. I maintained absolute normalcy at home. I was pleasant with Vanessa, helped Riley with school, went to work, came home. I didn't change anything about my behavior. Vanessa had no idea I knew anything. Meanwhile, I was building a case that would destroy her. Derek also dug into Justin Holloway's background. Married, 3 kids, owned a successful commercial real estate firm. He'd been one of Vanessa's patients 9 months ago during a cardiac episode. He'd made a full recovery, but apparently he and Vanessa had continued their relationship well beyond his discharge. The interesting part: Justin's medical records showed extensive notes about his cardiac condition, treatment protocols, follow-up care recommendations. But the billing records showed gaps. Hours of time that Vanessa had billed to the hospital for his care, but no corresponding medical notes or treatment documentation. She'd been billing the hospital for time spent sleeping with him. That was fraud. Federal healthcare fraud. That was prison time. After 2 weeks, I met with Claire Mitchum. I brought everything: Patricia's original documents, Derek's surveillance reports and photographs, my own analysis and timelines, copies of medical billing records I'd legally obtained through a request to our insurance company. Claire sat in her office, reading through everything with the kind of calm focus that told me she'd seen worse. When she finished, she looked up at me. "This is substantial," she said. "The affair alone would give you grounds for divorce, but the malpractice, the falsified records, the billing fraud, this goes way beyond a divorce case." "I know. You understand that if you pursue this fully, your wife will likely face criminal charges. She'll lose her medical license. She might go to prison. This isn't just ending your marriage. This is ending her entire life as she knows it." "I understand," I said. "And I want to proceed," Claire nodded. "Then here's what we're going to do. We'll file for divorce, citing adultery and irreconcilable differences. We'll seek full custody of your daughter based on your wife's unstable work schedule and ethical violations. Simultaneously, you'll file complaints with the medical board and hospital administration. I have contacts at the State Attorney General's office. I'll make sure they're aware of the potential fraud. How quickly can we move?" "I can have divorce papers ready in 48 hours. But I'd recommend you have everything else ready to file simultaneously. Once she's served with divorce papers, she'll know something's wrong. You want all your other complaints filed before she has a chance to destroy evidence or construct a defense. Agreed. We spent the next 3 hours going over every detail, preparing every document. Claire was worth every penny of her fee. She was ruthless, strategic, and absolutely focused on winning. I left her office. With a clear timeline, divorce papers would be ready Friday. Medical board complaint would be filed Monday. Hospital administration complaint and state attorney general notification would follow by Wednesday. In 1 week, Vanessa's world would explode. That Friday evening, Vanessa came home at her usual time. I'd made Riley's favorite dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. We ate together as a family, talking about Riley's day at school, an upcoming soccer tournament, nothing important. After dinner, Riley went to her room to video chat with Mia. Vanessa poured herself a glass of wine and settled on the couch with her laptop, probably checking hospital emails. I walked over and handed her the envelope. "What's this?" she asked, looking up. "Open it." She set down her wine glass and opened the envelope. I watched her face as she read the first page. Confusion, then shock, then something close to panic. "Nathan, what?" "Keep reading." She flipped through the pages. Divorce petition. Asset division documentation. Custody filing for Riley. All of it professional, legal, and completely devastating. "You're divorcing me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes. Because of what? We can work on our marriage, Nathan. I know I've been busy with work, but..." "This has nothing to do with you being busy," I said calmly. "This has to do with you falsifying medical records, committing malpractice, billing fraud, and having an affair with a patient." The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Derek's photos. Vanessa and Justin entering a hotel together, her hand in his. "Justin Holloway," I said. "Your patient, your lover, the man you've been stealing hospital time to sleep with while falsifying records to cover it up." She stared at the photo, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't form words. "I have everything, Vanessa. Photographs, surveillance videos, copies of the altered. Medical records, billing discrepancies, incident reports. I have testimony from hospital staff. I have a complete timeline of your affair and every falsified patient file." "Where did you? Who gave you?" She was panicking now, trying to piece together how I knew. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that on Monday, I'm filing a formal complaint with the State Medical Board. I'm also filing complaints with Mercy General Administration and notifying the State Attorney General's Office of potential healthcare fraud. By the end of next week, you'll be under multiple investigations." "You can't do this." She stood up, the papers scattering. "Nathan, you can't. This will destroy my career. I'll lose my license. I could go to prison." "Yes," I said simply. "You could, please." Her voice broke. "Please, we can fix this. I'll end things with Justin. I'll take a leave from the hospital. We can go to counseling. Just don't file those complaints, please." "You falsified medical records," I said, my voice hard. "You put patients at risk because you were too busy sleeping with Justin Holloway to do your job. One of your patients suffered permanent heart damage because you delayed treatment to meet your lover. You billed the hospital for hours you weren't working. You violated every oath you ever took. I made mistakes. You made choices. Deliberate, repeated choices, and now you're going to face the consequences." She started crying then. Full breakdown, sobbing, pleading, apologizing. She dropped to her knees on our living room floor, begging me not to file the complaints, promising she'd do anything. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no pity, just cold determination. "You have until Sunday to move out," I said. "Claire Mitchum is my attorney. All communication goes through her. If you attempt to contact Riley without supervision, I'll add it to the custody petition. If you attempt to destroy any evidence or contact any of the patients whose records you falsified, I'll make sure the Attorney General knows you're obstructing justice. Nathan, please." I walked away, went to my office, closed the door. Behind me, I could hear her still crying, still pleading with no one. Riley's door opened. "Dad, is Mom okay?" "Your mom is going to be staying somewhere else for a while," I said, keeping my voice calm. "We're having some grown-up problems, but you're safe and nothing is your fault, okay?" Riley looked scared. She was 13, old enough to know something serious was happening, but young enough to not fully understand what. I hugged her and she held on tight. "Is it about the envelope Mrs. Chen gave me?" she asked quietly, partially. "But this is about things your mom did, not anything you did. You did the right thing giving me that envelope. Mrs. Chen is a good person who helped me learn some things I needed to know." Vanessa left that night, packed a bag and went to a hotel. She called me twice over the weekend. both times pleading with me to reconsider, to stop the complaints, to give her another chance. I didn't answer. Monday morning, my medical board complaint was filed. 42 pages documenting systematic malpractice, falsified records, patient endangerment, and billing fraud. I included Patricia Chen's original documents, Derek's surveillance evidence showing Vanessa's affair during work hours, and my own analysis of the medical billing discrepancies. The medical board acknowledged receipt and opened an investigation. Wednesday, the hospital received my formal complaint. I also sent copies to 3 local news stations and a medical ethics watchdog group. I wanted maximum pressure on Mercy General to actually investigate this time instead of covering it up. Thursday, the state attorney general's office contacted me. They wanted all my evidence regarding the billing fraud. I provided everything. Friday, the story broke in the news. Prominent cardiologist under investigation for malpractice and healthcare fraud. Vanessa's photo was on the evening broadcast. Mercy General released a statement saying they were cooperating fully with the investigation and had placed Dr. Pierce on administrative leave pending the outcome. The medical board moved faster than I expected. They reviewed my complaint, conducted their own preliminary investigation, and within 6 weeks scheduled a formal hearing. Vanessa hired lawyers, expensive ones. They tried to settle the divorce, offering generous asset splits and shared custody if I'd withdraw the medical board complaint. Claire told them to go to hell. They tried to discredit my evidence, claiming the documents were obtained illegally. The board reviewed how I'd gotten everything and determined it was all legally obtained. Patricia Chen's whistleblowing was protected. Derek's surveillance was in public places. The medical records had been provided by patients themselves once they learned about the falsifications. They tried to paint me as a vindictive husband out for revenge. The board didn't care about my motivations. They cared about the evidence, which was damning. The hearing took place on a Wednesday in August. It was held in a conference room at the State Medical Board building. The panel consisted of 5 board members, 3 physicians, 1 nurse, and 1 public advocate. Vanessa sat with her legal team on one side. I sat with Claire and Patricia Chen on the other. The board chairman opened by reading the charges: systematic falsification of medical records, patient endangerment, inappropriate relationship with a patient, healthcare fraud, and violation of professional ethical standards. Then they asked me to present my evidence. I'd prepared a presentation. PowerPoint slides, document exhibits, video footage. I walked the board through everything chronologically. Started with Patricia Chen's original complaint 9 months ago that the hospital had ignored. Showed them the pattern of falsified records. Demonstrated how the timing of the alterations corresponded with Vanessa's meetings with Justin Holloway. Presented testimony from 3 patients who'd suffered harm due to delayed treatment, while Vanessa was otherwise occupied. One of those patients was a 67-year-old man named Arthur Kemp who'd come into the ER with chest pains. Vanessa's records showed she'd seen him immediately and administered proper treatment. But the actual ER logs showed he'd waited 2 hours before Vanessa arrived, during which time his condition worsened to the point where he now had permanent heart damage and would need ongoing care for the rest of his life. I played surveillance video of Vanessa leaving the hospital during the time she was supposed to be treating Mr. Kemp. She met Justin Holloway at a restaurant. They had lunch. They went to a hotel. She returned to the hospital 3 hours later and falsified the records to show she'd been there the whole time. Mr. Kemp was at the hearing. He testified that he'd trusted Dr. Pierce with his life, and she'd betrayed that trust to spend time with her lover. The board members' faces were grim. Vanessa's attorneys argued that the records were complex, that timestamps could be misinterpreted, that Dr. Pierce had always operated with the best interests of her patients in mind. They presented character witnesses, other doctors at Mercy General who testified that Vanessa was a skilled physician. But they couldn't explain away the surveillance footage. They couldn't explain the billing discrepancies. They couldn't explain why she'd billed for hours she wasn't at the hospital. And they absolutely couldn't explain the patient testimonies of actual harm caused by her delays. The board deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the chairman read their decision. The board finds Dr. Vanessa Pierce guilty of all charges, based on the evidence of systematic malpractice, falsification of medical records, inappropriate patient relationships, and healthcare fraud, we hereby revoke her medical license effective immediately. We are also referring this case to the state attorney general for potential criminal prosecution. Vanessa didn't react. She just sat there staring straight ahead as her entire career evaporated in one sentence. Her attorneys requested an appeal. The board denied it. The evidence was too overwhelming. We left the building separately. Press was waiting outside. The story had gotten significant media attention. I made a brief statement thanking the board for their diligence and expressing hope that the patients who'd been harmed would receive justice. Vanessa left through a side door, surrounded by her lawyers, saying nothing. 2 weeks later, the state attorney general filed criminal charges. 3 counts of healthcare fraud, multiple counts of falsifying medical records. If convicted, she faced up to 15 years in prison. The divorce proceeded in parallel. Vanessa's leverage was gone. She had no income. Her medical license was revoked, and no hospital would hire her even in an administrative role with pending criminal charges. Her legal fees were draining her assets. She couldn't fight for custody when she was facing prison time. Claire negotiated a settlement that gave me everything. Full custody of Riley with supervised visitation only. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, my inheritance. Vanessa kept her retirement account and her car. She'd need the money for her criminal defense. Riley handled it better than I expected. She was angry at her mom, confused about why this happened, but she adjusted to our new normal. I got her into therapy to help process everything. Patricia Chen's daughter Mia continued to be her best friend, which helped a lot. Vanessa pleaded guilty to avoid trial. She received 5 years in prison, eligible for parole after 3. She also had to pay restitution to several patients, including Arthur Kemp. Justin Holloway's life also fell apart. His wife divorced him when the affair became public. He lost custody of his kids. His real estate business suffered as investors and partners distanced themselves from the scandal. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state to start over. Mercy General faced its own reckoning. The hospital administration was